In a cold cave in North Yorkshire, a historical legend was born quietly. A woman capable of curing sick cows, curing terrible fevers to women, even telling future of a king's closest advisor who would not enter the city of York, and her words came true. Her father was unknown, but she would have made him proud of his daughter. Her mother faced allegations of profound, unforgivable scandal. She was dragged before local magistrates to identify the father. Because of her silence, the birth of the baby girl was associated to dark and supernatural rumors. Even the townspeople held Devil responsible for the birth of the girl. And why would they not? Why would they believe her to be human, with the appearance she had? This is the story of Ursula, a real-life witch living in a time of extreme religious paranoia, where physical deformities and natural birth defects were deemed as physical proofs of demonic, evil heritage. In this Witchcraft documentary, we will take you back to the city of North Yorkshire, where you will meet a witch, Ursula, for whom a stake was insufficient to burn her. A brilliantly intelligent woman who overcame massive, overwhelming physical and social obstacles. The year was 1488. In a damp, cold cave in North Yorkshire, England, a historical legend was quietly born. Her name was Ursula Southiel. However, the world will eventually remember her simply as Mother Shipton. She was not a creature of myth or dark fantasy. Ursula was a real woman living in a time of extreme religious paranoia. Tudor England was a dangerous place for anyone who stepped outside the established social norms. Her story begins with her mother, Agatha. Agatha was only 15 years old when she gave birth to Ursula in the lonely cave. She had no husband. In the 15th century, this was considered a profound, unforgivable scandal. Agatha was dragged before the local magistrates. They demanded to know the identity of the father. Agatha refused to speak his name. Because of her absolute silence, the terrified townspeople began to whisper incredibly dark, supernatural rumors. They claimed the devil himself was the father. This vicious rumor haunted Ursula from the very moment she took her first breath. The Society of Knaresborough immediately labelled the infant as something fundamentally corrupted and terribly dangerous. Ursula's physical appearance unfortunately fueled these superstitious fears. Historical records describe her as having severe physical deformities. Her back was twisted, and her facial features were disproportionate. Today, we understand these as tragic, natural birth defects. But the people of Tudor England did not understand medical science. They looked at the young girl's bent spine and unusual face and saw what they believed was physical proof of a demonic, evil heritage. Because of her appearance, Ursula faced intense isolation. She was bullied and mocked by the local children. Instead of playing in the village square, she retreated back to the absolute isolation of the cave where she was originally born. This cave was not just a dark hole in the ground. It was situated next to a very famous natural landmark called the Petrifying Well. The water dripping in this area had a strange, almost magical quality. Any object placed under the dripping water of the well would eventually turn entirely to solid stone. Leaves, dead birds, and even pieces of clothing would calcify over several months. It looked like pure, undeniable dark magic. Modern geology explains this phenomenon perfectly. The water contains an extremely high concentration of specific minerals. When the water evaporates, it leaves mineral deposits behind, encasing the objects. But in the 1500s, It was considered sorcery. Ursula spent her formative years observing this environment. She learned the deep secrets of the surrounding forest. She studied the local plants, roots, and herbs. She carefully watched how different flora reacted to weather and changing seasons. This deep connection to nature became her greatest asset. She began creating herbal remedies for common ailments. While the townspeople initially feared her, they soon realized that her specific botanical knowledge was actually highly effective and useful. If a farmer had a sick cow, Ursula knew exactly which herbs would cure the animal. If a woman suffered from terrible fever, Ursula provided a cooling poultice. Her reputation slowly shifted from demonic outcast to healer. At the age of 24, she married a local carpenter named Mother Shipton. This marriage was a significant turning point in her life. It provided her with a layer of social respectability and a new name. She was no longer just the strange girl from the cave. She was now a married woman. The community began to refer to her respectfully as Mother Shipton. Her influence within the local Yorkshire area grew steadily. Mother Shipton did not rely solely on her herbalism. She began making specific observations about local events and the behaviors of prominent people. She offered guidance that bordered on prophecy, using her sharp intellect and keen intuition. These early predictions were heavily grounded in absolute reality. She simply paid close attention to the subtle political currents of the town. She understood human nature perfectly, allowing her to predict local outcomes with astonishing, unmatched accuracy. Her predictions were rarely mysterious riddles. They were often direct, practical warnings regarding property disputes, local marriages, and the success of upcoming harvests. People began traveling from neighboring villages simply to hear her practical, grounded advice. As her local fame expanded, her predictions grew more ambitious. She began speaking about national politics. This was incredibly dangerous during the reign of King Henry VIII. Treason was heavily punished, often by brutal public execution. Her most famous historical prophecy involved the powerful Cardinal Wolsey. Wolsey was the king's closest advisor and essentially ruled England. Mother Shipton confidently predicted that Wolsey would see the city of York, but never actually enter it. This prediction seemed completely impossible. Wolsey had been appointed Archbishop of York and was travelling there to take his seat. He arrived at Cawood, a town situated only a few miles away from the great city walls. Before Wolsey could officially enter York, he received a sudden, urgent message from King Henry VIII. The cardinal was officially arrested for high treason on the spot. He was ordered to return to London immediately. Cardinal Wolsey died on the journey back to London. He never set foot inside the city of York. This specific event cemented Mother Shipton's reputation completely. She was no longer just a local healer. She was a prophet. News of her incredible accuracy spread rapidly across England. Powerful noblemen and wealthy merchants secretly sent messengers to Yorkshire. They desperately wanted to know what the future held for their estates, their families, and the volatile kingdom. Despite this massive surge in dangerous attention, Mother Shipton remained remarkably safe. During a historical period where women were frequently burned or hanged for witchcraft, she somehow managed to avoid all formal religious and legal persecution completely. This survival was likely due to her deep understanding of political power. She rarely criticized the ruling monarch directly. Her prophecies were always carefully worded to avoid crossing the line into direct, actionable treason against the crown. She also provided genuine, tangible help to her immediate community. The people of Yorkshire protected her because she healed their sick children and saved their failing crops. They respected her authority much more than they feared her. Mother Shipton allegedly predicted many other major historical events. She supposedly foretold the dissolution of the monasteries by King Henry VIII. She also predicted the devastating, terrible Great Fire of London that occurred in 1666. However, analysing these larger prophecies requires extreme historical caution. During her actual lifetime, she never published a single written book. All of her words were passed down through oral tradition, strictly from one generation to the next. The first official book containing her prophecies was not published until 1641. This was precisely 80 years after her documented death. By this time, her legend had grown far beyond the reality of her life. In the late 17th century, a writer named Richard Head published heavily exaggerated versions of her story. He completely fabricated wild, terrifying details about her life to sell more cheap pamphlets to a highly superstitious English public. Richard Head was the man who heavily promoted the idea of her demonic heritage. He wrote ridiculous stories, claiming she floated in the air and summoned terrible beasts. He transformed a smart, observant healer into a monstrous cartoon. These heavily altered publications make it incredibly difficult to separate the historical truth from the manufactured folklore. Writers constantly added new prophecies to her list after major events occurred, falsely claiming she had accurately predicted them. She predicted the invention of steam trains, telegraphs, and even submarines. These technological prophecies were entirely fabricated in the 19th century. They have absolutely zero connection to the real Tudor woman. To uncover the real Mother Shipton, we must strip away these commercial additions. We must look at the documented reality of the 1500s. We find a brilliantly intelligent woman who overcame massive, overwhelming physical and social obstacles. She used her deep knowledge of the natural world to establish indispensable value. She understood that in a deeply patriarchal, religious society, presenting herself as an eccentric prophet gave her a unique, highly protective kind of secular power. She monetized her observation skills perfectly. While she did not amass massive gold fortunes like other historical figures, she secured a comfortable, independent life. She lived entirely on her own terms, an incredibly rare achievement for the era. Mother Shipton died in 1561. She was exactly 73 years old. This old age is a remarkable fact. Most women accused of supernatural abilities during this violent historical period died brutally, painfully, and very young. She was not burned at the terrible stake. She was not drowned in a freezing river. She died quietly and peacefully in her own comfortable bed. She was buried in unconsecrated ground, remaining completely outside the church's control. Her legacy continued to grow massively after her quiet death. The cave where she was born became a major historical landmark. In 1630, the land was officially purchased, making it the oldest registered tourist attraction in England. Millions of people have visited the petrifying well over the centuries. They still hang small teddy bears, hats, and shoes under the dripping water. They watch patiently as the heavy minerals slowly turn the soft objects into solid stone. The actual tools she used were incredibly simple. Unlike the elaborate, wealthy altars of other accused witches, Mother Shipton relied on basic items. She used wooden walking sticks, simple clay bowls for mixing herbs, and local river stones. Her true magic was not found in a dark spell book. It was found in her unparalleled ability to watch human behavior quietly. She observed the tiny details that powerful, arrogant men constantly overlooked in their daily lives. The story of Mother Shipton is ultimately a fascinating study of historical perception. It shows how society handles individuals who look absolutely different. It demonstrates how a frightened community will eventually respect someone who consistently solves problems. We must analyze her through the analytical lens of sociology and history. She was a master of psychological observation. By understanding the deep anxieties of her time, she provided exactly the right answers to the right powerful people. Her life proves that true influence does not always require extreme wealth or royal blood. Sometimes, incredible influence only requires an extremely sharp mind, a secluded cave, and the absolute courage to speak the truth to terrified people. Today, the legend of Mother Shipton serves as a perfect example of folklore creation. The reality of the severely disabled herbalist was fascinating enough, but society always demands a larger, darker, and more dramatic story to entertain itself. She stands as a powerful symbol of survival. In a violent world built to destroy women who lived outside the strict religious margins, Ursula Southale thrived completely. She outsmarted the powerful bishops, the nervous kings, and the angry mobs. Her narrative continues to inspire deep historical curiosity. Researchers constantly attempt to separate the real predictions from the later Victorian forgeries. The process requires meticulous, careful analysis of ancient Tudor linguistics and cross-referencing hundreds of records.